Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Prosperity Through Multifamily Real Estate Investing podcast. As always, I'm your host, Real Estate Cody, and joining me in the cockpit today is Crypto John. John, what's happening?
Hey, it's a great day in the whole world, and I'm excited that Tim is with us today. I'm going to introduce you guys to Tim Milazzo. He is CEO of a tech company. And what does it do? He is solving the mortgage brokerage solution with technology. He's previously worked for giants like Facebook and Google, and now he's got a marketplace to reinvent the stagnant mortgage broker business model with technology and enable a marketplace and streamlined service for commercial real estate financing. And I'm sure we've got a lot of other things to cover, Tim, about your background, but absolutely excited to have you. You've got like a really good laid back energy. And so I'm excited to have a conversation.
Thanks so much for having me on, John and Cody. Really looking forward to it.
Absolutely, Tim. I echo John's sentiment there, man. Really excited to have you here, and really excited to learn more about this tech component that you've incorporated in your business here. But before we get to that, man, tell us a little bit more about your background and how you ended up in the commercial lending space.
Absolutely. So I'm Tim. As you mentioned, I'm founder and CEO of StackSource. And I got my first exposure to real estate through family. My grandparents sold a few houses as agents. My dad then was in commercial real estate as a leasing broker, helping people get office space in New York City. And I never thought I'd be in real estate. I thought I was going to be off in a different world. And for a few years I was. After studying finance, I worked for big tech companies that you mentioned that make a lot of money online with online advertising and data. And I was in sales and operational roles there. And the reason I got back into commercial real estate and ultimately into commercial real estate finance was because I saw the opportunity to kind of fuse a couple things that I was passionate about. One was technology, and then the other is, real estate investing. And the financing process was so far left behind as far as, brokers and not changing their process for decades and not really having much transparency into what are my available commercial financing options. And that was rapidly changing for buying homes for consumers, where you could get quotes online very quickly and easily. And I didn't see that happening in commercial real estate. Why can't you get a commercial financing quote quickly and easily? And I was not satisfied by the answer of all the answers I got from brokers and investors in the space. I thought it should and could be done, and we attacked it.
That's really cool. So you saw
I
this
recently
Go ahead, John.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I recently refinanced my house, and it was extremely easy. 100% online. I know all my options. Streamlined commercial interface. So are you bringing that same platform to commercial real estate investors? Give us the vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there are a lot of commercial financing underwritings that cannot be automated, right? There's a lot there. Multifamily and commercial real estate assets are businesses. They're not just an asset that sits there for the consumption of a consumer. And so it's not the same type of underwriting. It's not a consumer's credit score and the value of the home. And you have to underwrite the cash flow. You have to underwrite the income and understand how that property is going to be. And there's a track record to the borrower. Who's going to own that asset is going to make a difference to the value of it, which is also not true most times for homes. And so you cannot automate a large scale development or construction loan. But for a fully occupied multifamily or for a single tenant retail asset where there's a credit tenant, if Starbucks rents a building from you and they're the only tenant and they've promised to pay rent for the next 15 years, that's an underwriting that shouldn't take too much brain damage to get an automated quote. If there's a multifamily asset that has been fully occupied for the last year and there's a stable income that you can show, there shouldn't be so much brain damage to tell you Freddie Mac will offer 80% leverage at this percentage interest rate and 30-year amortization, and here's how that impacts your cash flow. Those things should be quick and easy. And then the other things, even if it's not an automated quote, we feel they should be a little bit more transparent too.
Yeah, I like that. And, we've talked about this briefly on the show in prior episodes, where the real estate sector in general seems to be very slow in its progression in incorporating technology on multiple different levels, right? Both on the asset level and on the business side. And I think as we advance in our society of convenience, we expect things to be more readily available, more easily accessible. And I mean, we always talk about this, right? I mean, look what COVID did. It forced us all to be working from home, and you needed that accessibility at your fingertips or at your desk from home, right? So you're solving a problem that may be, I think, probably a little forward thinking still, but it's definitely the way that people are going to continue to move towards. But it's funny, you referenced how this is already available in kind of like the single family space, right? And so when you mention that, I'm thinking like the lending trees, right? Where you can go online, you can plug in a few things, and boom, you get some quotes. Is that a similar model that you're trying to develop here? Or?
It's a little bit different because for StackSource, in addition to having a crisp, clean, enter information and get some feedback immediately, whether that, for sometimes the feedback is an instant quote. Sometimes the feedback is, well, you can't get an instant quote for this asset, or even if you got one, here are other lenders you're matched to as well that would manually review. But you also are here, the way it's different than maybe Lending Tree or some other like aggregators. We are not selling our borrowers' information to lenders that can then go call you and hound you and try to chase you to get a loan. You're getting assigned a capital advisor. And so a capital advisor is like our answer to a traditional commercial mortgage broker, because truthfully, good commercial mortgage brokers add a lot of value in helping you to position your underwriting in a way that's going to get approval from the lender, help you negotiate out the right loan, help you to think about the strategy, maybe, especially if you've got a light value add deal. You may have a bank that may be able to give you a loan based on the current value and the current income of the asset, but you're also trying to add value, and you think the value of the property and the income are going to be higher in 9 to 12 months. Are you going for a bridge loan? Are you going for a bank? Can you find the bank that can do a hybrid of both, where they're going to do a current funding for the value of the asset, and then they're going to put a reserve in and IO payments for the first year so that you can achieve that light value add? There's a strategy to it, more than just, hey, I'm matched and I have a quote, for many deals. And the capital advisor at StackSource plays that role, where you get matched to somebody in your region that works for StackSource full time, that is able to help you get the best financing result out of your matched lenders. So there's some automated aspects, and there's also full service. So that's maybe how we're a little bit different than a Lending Tree.
So you automate where you can, but you also have the full service model. So I mean, it's kind of best of both worlds, what you're telling me.
You just can't automate everything in commercial. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very clear. I mean, I need to understand cash flows. Hey, can you upload your T12? I mean, there's a lot of things that are not just straightforward. Like, hey, what's your credit score? Like you can a single family home, because they can give you a quote basically instantaneously. You're right. These assets are quite a bit different. But one of the questions I wanted to ask was, what's the time frame for this? What is your, how fast do you want to get feedback to people, whether, even if it's just, hey, this is not going to qualify at these levels. Like what's the turnaround time on this?
Yeah. So there are a few automated quotes, and we're rolling out automated quotes everywhere where it makes sense, where it can be accurate. So like Freddie Mac SBL, you've got a multifamily that's 90+% occupied, and you qualify on all the other major points for a Freddie Mac SBL loan on multifamily, you can get an instant quote. If you're not, or if you'd like to shop around even beyond the instant quote and you say, oh, well, I'm matched to 12 more lenders, I'd like to see, can a bank, even if it's full recourse, give me a much better interest rate. I'm very interested in that. And you tell your capital advisor you'd like to move forward. Then it's not instant. We prep your file for, the lender review. And when that's ready, you can get quotes back same day, within a couple days. It'll depend a little bit on the asset and the business plan. How involved is it? Again, if it's stabilized and it's just a cash out refi and you're not doing any further CapEx on property, pretty quickly, that's a pretty simple underwriting. We're able to queue it up and get competitive quotes and maybe the best rate, maybe the most cash out, depending on what you're looking for. If it's a major value add, if it's construction, we'll work with you on the underwriting to make sure it's ready to go. And then there's going to be questions back and forth with the lender, about the borrower's experience, about really what is this business plan? Have you accomplished the same business plan with another asset? Who are these partners? And it could be some questions back and forth over the next few days to really make sure that you're getting the best quote. And that's, that could take a little bit of time. So development loan, you're bringing something fresh out of the ground. That's going to take the longest, and that's going to be the most involved in working out the business plan. But the simple loans, a couple of days.
So it sounds like, Tim, your accessibility to quote multiple different loan products is accessible to your capital advisor. So you're looking at everything from the agencies, and I'm assuming you can do bridge as well. You're able to go across the entire commercial lending products, so to speak?
Yeah, we have 700 unique lending partners at this point, which would make no sense for residential because it's largely the same types of loans over and over, and it's just a matter of who ends up with it at the end of the day. The reason that matters for multifamily and commercial financing is
Go ahead.
So the reason having multiple lenders competing is so important in commercial is if you're buying that first 20 unit multifamily and you've got, marginal experience for it, different lenders are going to view you differently. And certain lenders, we may be the first to know that there's a credit union in a different county that you haven't talked to, but they have excess room on their balance sheet right now, and they'd love to make a multifamily loan. And they're going to get aggressive on the leverage, on the rate. And that's the type of thing you may be able to discover if you make 40 calls to lenders. But do you want to? And is that the best use of your time versus underwriting the next deal? So when we have these 700 lending partners and we know, hey, on this one, here are the 13 that are going to be most competitive. Let's shop it just specifically to those 13. You're saving time and potentially finding a better financing option and more leverage, lower rate, getting better financing and a better cost of capital beyond knowing what you're doing with the asset is number one. Getting the best financing is the next best way to boost your returns.
What's it look like compared to a traditional mortgage broker? I mean, do they have the same 700 people in their network, or what? How are you kind of getting the folks out there that want to make that loan out of your network?
That's a good question. As part of our discovery process for building this platform, we did like interviews. I went around the industry and did interviews with lenders and brokers and borrowers. And I interviewed brokers that had access to, they were sitting at the biggest, best commercial mortgage brokerage, companies and with big names and then people that were doing it independently. And again and again, it came back to who's top of mind for them and who are their relationships that they've done and they've done volume with, and they know they're reliable. Now, part of that is good. Part of the relationships means you've worked with people that are reliable enough that they're not going to retrade you. Your loan's not going to get shut down in late stages, and that's extremely important. That's maybe like the biggest benefit we haven't talked about so far, because if a lender quotes you something but they're not going to follow through, that's worse than just turning you down in the beginning, right? So reliable lenders is important, and brokers have that value because they have relationships. But when they then rely too heavily on, here are the 7 lenders I always go to, they are missing that opportunity to say, well, of this set of hundreds of lenders, this one can be the most aggressive right now for whatever reason, whether it's the excess, money on their balance sheet, whether it's, the view they have, whether they're local enough to know, hey, this is in my backyard. You may be missing an aggressive lender that is also reliable. And the traditional brokers don't do that. They play it safe because they're after trying to get their commission because a loan is closed, rather than this is the best possible loan for that asset that maximizes the returns. And that's a big difference. And there are good brokers, then there are honest brokers that just don't have that capability. They're trying to get deals done. They're trying to juggle a lot without a technology platform that makes them more efficient. And so we've actually hired people that were competitors of ours to come work for StackSource as capital advisors, which is exciting because they have all that expertise and they know exactly what they're doing on underwriting. They've advised 100 borrowers, and now they have the power of the platform. So we're growing the ranks of our capital advisors at the company as well. But listen, relationships with lenders is so important. Broad access to who's in the market and with what capital, and really taking the most advantage of that, is also super important.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point, Tim, in that it's very important to make sure that you're not just relying on one or two quotes, right? I mean, especially from these lenders, right? I mean, you want to make sure that you kind of explore the market, make sure that you're getting the best competitive rate. You're absolutely right. I think the relationships with those professionals are absolutely important, but you don't want to isolate yourself just to that first one or two quotes that you get, because you could be leaving dollars on the table, so to speak, that could be very valuable and beneficial to your business plan. But talk to us a little bit more about, oh man, I had the question right there on the tip of my tongue. I lost it. Sorry.
Well, I can shift gears for you, because I did want to talk about staying top of mind with the banks, at least, and we can kind of phase that into it's a broader discussion on how do you stay top of mind with both investors and banks and lenders, et cetera, and how do we leverage technology to do that?
Yeah. So a couple of key things that we do, because if we have 700 lenders on our platform, the speed and the reliability of them actually getting back to our borrowers with good quotes is extremely important to our business model, or we wouldn't have a platform, right? It would be an empty platform. Only so many borrowers would come through and get 0 quotes before we're out of business. And so the relationships with the lenders and really understanding what loans they're looking for is a big piece of that. So we have an algorithm that determines whether that lender matches on a deal by deal basis. And we're really trying to hit their strike zone. What are you going to be competitive on? Not just what can you technically get approved, but if you're not going to be competitive and you're not going to beat the next guy who wants it more, we don't want to match you to that loan. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want to waste the borrower's time. And so we try to algorithmically match, we've seen what they've quoted. We know what they've said that, on their updates 2 weeks ago. We take everything into account on dozens of criteria that determine whether they match. And that's one. And then the other thing is actually even more key. You don't get to reach those lenders on StackSource just because you stick in a property address and upload a rent roll. Our team pre-underwrites that. And our analysts and our capital advisors are going through and vetting that deal. And until you're cleared by StackSource's team, you're not out to market with those lenders. And again, there's an auto quote feature and you can get the auto quote right away. But for any ones that are a manual quote, you have to pass an internal underwriting for StackSource first. And that keeps our ecosystem clean. That means these lenders, when they get an alert from StackSource, you're going to the top of the pile instead of the bottom.
Yeah, it's good.
Why do you say that they're going to the top of the pile?
Well, it's credibility. And so whether you're using StackSource or not, here's the key for listeners. You don't have to use StackSource. What you need to have is credibility. And so you need to have a clean underwriting, and you need to know what the keys are and the pros and cons of your deal and how a lender is going to view that. My capital advisors can help you with that. You don't necessarily need it. If you can do that all on your own with a lender and find the right lender, you should do it, because then you're not going to pay us a fee, and if you can maintain higher credibility. But whether it's coming from us and we enforce that as an ecosystem, or whether it's coming from you, and let's say you meet not a lender, but an equity investor, someone you want to be your LP, you know, or to be an investment partner or a pref equity investor on your next, I mean, credibility. And, you know, you're not slinging garbage at them because you actually understand the numbers. And when they look at your package, they say, you know what, this makes sense. And I'm trying to stress test it, but I think they underwrote it correctly. Credibility is something that you want to protect at all costs in this industry.
Yeah, it's that credibility is definitely everything in this industry for sure.
You can lose it in an instance.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, Tim, let me ask you a little bit more challenging question. How much capital would you say has been lent or placed from borrower leads like John and I going through you as StackSource? You know, what's that conversion look like?
So we ran the numbers on last month, and we had our best month ever. And last month, we successfully arranged over $45 million in financings.
Wow.
So we are ticking up fast. Our overall number is in the hundreds of millions, and yet we're gunning for our first couple of billion. And you know, if you had asked me that a couple of years ago, the number would have been like a tiny fraction of where we are today. We've taken the time to get the platform and the foundation right, now to build the team and the capital advisor team. We just raised some capital for our business to continue to expand and to improve the technology and to hire more people. So it's happening fast now. It took several years of prep and hard work and grit to get to the point where it's now happening fast. So I posted on LinkedIn yesterday, and all right, so I posted on LinkedIn yesterday, we're an overnight success, 45 million in 1 month, and we're growing from there. And then the next paragraph, did I mention it's taken 5 years of grit and grind to get to this place? Because we've gone through everything. We had the model wrong in the beginning. We had to hire the right team, and we've done so much foundational work. It's happening fast now, but it's taken like years of effort and tweaking the platform so we know it's trustworthy for lenders and it's trustworthy for borrowers, and we have the right financing solutions on it. It's happening fast now. You know, we're going to be in the billions before long, but 45 million last month was our record, and so that was a fun question to ask to answer for me.
5 years overnight.
Cool. Yeah, you know, I think, and you know, it brings up a good point, and I think that could be a contributing factor as to why real estate has been so slow in incorporating technology into space, because anything involving tech, at least to get it to scale, is very difficult. It's very, very challenging, you know, and I'm always impressed by, you know, guys like yourself who are building a tech platform that can get it to this scale, because it's very labor intensive, it's very capital intensive, and like you said, you know, there's a lot of obviously shifting and pivoting that goes along with that. So man, kudos, great job. It's cool to see that you guys have so much momentum, and you know, I'm excited to see you guys continue to grow. But we've kind of summed up a lot here, and I just want to ask or revisit kind of what's the incentive for me, the borrower, you know, to go through StackSource, and what's the incentive for the lender on the opposite end? Yeah,
for the lenders, it's easy. So I'll start with the second part. Lenders want to make good loans to good borrowers with quality assets. They do. It's really all a matter of removing a lot of hurdles. I mean, a lot of things happen in underwriting. The loan officer you're looking to, if you go straight to a lender, is not actually the decision maker. You find the right loan officer that can become a champion for your deal, but they need to answer a number of questions and mitigate every risk for their credit committee. And the key to getting a commercial mortgage is to get credit committee approval. And that is really more than just, hey, loan officer, do you want to hit your quota and we can get you good lending opportunities? The answer is always yes. And if you go to them too as a borrower, you know, a loan officer is not going to turn you away if you're a multifamily real estate owner. They'll talk to you. It's really about removing the hurdles to get that credit committee approval and understanding what can go wrong and addressing that ahead of time. So we find relationships with the right loan officers that can really be champions for deals on our platform, and they work with us to get that credit committee approval and for that to go smoothly. Now for borrowers, there's 10,000 plus people that we could be talking to help them get a loan and that matter in this industry. Every town across America has multifamily, retail, and medical offices, if nothing else. And those three asset classes, and then you get to big cities and you've got big office towers and you've got hotels. But truthfully, there are multifamily and retail and office owners everywhere across the country. And so our big challenge is letting them know about us and why they should, why they should care. The first and biggest reason is don't leave dollars on the table because you have suboptimal financing. Suboptimal financing with a higher rate, with a shorter amortization, it bites into your cash flow quickly. And especially if you're syndicating, having a little bit higher IRR than the next guy never hurts you. And so suboptimal financing is not, you want to solve that if you have that in your portfolio. If you have bridge loans that are ready to get taken out, if you're working with the bank that's not the right bank, you want to get to optimal financing. And then number two, you don't want to be left to the altar of somebody that's promising you the world and their process stinks. They retrade you. You're late on your close. You never want to be late on an acquisition deal. You never want to be late because now you're having to renegotiate with the seller. Then you're losing credibility. You could be losing capital. So those are the reasons that borrowers work with us. It's you need better financing and you need to know that you can rely on it.
Yeah. John, how many stories have we heard where lenders have fallen through at the last minute and people are scrambling to have to go find?
They've fallen through, but the terms have changed. So we can get it done, but we need a little bit more. But it's only like 7 days to go before close. Heard that one 100 times.
That's true. And Tim, you mentioned another good point, and John, this is going to sound very familiar. It's one of the most important legs of the three-legged stool, right? Which is financing right. So the buy right, finance right, and manage right model that's, at least from our mentors, Jake and Gino, but that finance right is an absolute huge component of your business plan. So, it's very, very important to get matched, what you said, with the right debt that matches your business strategy. So yes. I really like that. So.
So what's the, so we're coming back to the question, like you talked about the incentives from the lender side. What's from the commercial real estate investor side? What's the hook?
Yeah, honestly, it's just having the best cost of capital, boost your returns, and know it's going to happen.
So certainty and competitive rates.
Yeah, it almost always comes. We do a lot of permanent financing at StackSource. Can you get me a better rate than the term sheet I already have? And that's a common question, and we'll tell you if the answer is no. Because the last thing we want to waste too is our own time. Like you've got 3% fixed now, here in May or June 2021, and you've got 30-year amortization, and they're at 80%. Take the loan. That's the best loan that you can have. So, but if you come in with a term sheet and you're at 4.x and 25-year amortization, and you've got a bunch of things that you probably shouldn't stomach on a term sheet, let's get something better.
Gotcha. So Tim, I want to talk about, you mentioned that you guys have placed or allocated now hundreds of millions of dollars capital with borrowers and lenders. Can you highlight kind of what asset types that portfolio or that capital has made up? Is it all multifamily? Is it across, you mentioned a couple of asset classes in our conversations. Where do you feel like is the majority of your leads or borrowers coming from?
Yeah, half of our deal flow is multifamily. So we love multifamily. It's having a historical, strong run. Forget COVID for a second, because everything's been affected by COVID, and we can have a whole conversation about that, which is probably not the best use unless we wanted to get into it. Like we could do another episode about COVID financing, I'm sure. But forget that. Multifamily has had an historically strong run, and for a while, and I don't think it's going to stop because people are going to need a place to live next year. And by the way, there's going to be more people. So it's needed and it's necessary. And so half our deal flow is multifamily. And then the other half is a mix of retail, office, and industrial mostly. Industrial is also on a strong run. Retail is up and down and sideways depending on where you are. So, it's a mix for us. We match different lenders based on the scenario. You're not going to get an instant quote for an office building that you're leasing up. A lot of our workflow for multifamily is unique because it makes up so much of our, our deal flow and our business. And then a lot of it's permanent, but we have a whole nother segment that's transitional bridge financing, development financing. So multifamily would be the most permanent, and getting the best rate would be the most. Though we have a pretty healthy mix, and we're not talking about a couple people in the room distracted with all these. We've got over a dozen capital advisors at this point, and they have different career stories of, one was a banker for 20 years and has worked on a lot of, a certain type of loan, and another was at another competitive mortgage brokerage shop, and they have different specialties as well. And, what we like to do is match up a capital advisor that knows, a loan scenario really well with a borrower that needs that type of support.
Love it. And from the borrower side, talk to me a little bit more about the fee structure here, because when we're going direct to certain lenders, obviously there's origination costs, there's loan application fees that you all have to account for your upfront costs, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you guys come in as far as your fee structure? When does that have to be addressed and through the process?
Sure. In most cases for StackSource, a borrower is saying, listen, you've got a valuable service because I need better financing. I need higher leverage. Here's my problem. And we determine, can we solve it? And if we can, we say, listen, we're going to work together. We're your financing partner. We are another person on your team that happens to have a heck of a lot more experience and data about this one thing to make it better. And it's the loan. We're not going to tell you how to manage your property, but we can sure as heck help you with the financing. And you're going to part with 1% loan origination fee at closing. For us successfully doing our job, that's the way it goes for a lot of our relationships. Now, if you're talking about these auto quotes, there's even more fun because you pay us nothing. That's built into the economics of like agency financing for Freddie Mac. How would you like to know a dirty little industry secret about multifamily lending?
Yes, please.
All right. So these agency lenders that have a credit box from either Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac or both, there are economics built into the back end of the loan where they can juice the interest rate on you and make more on the back end, and they never have to put it on the term sheet. And there's a problem here in that originators will sense how experienced is my borrower, how much business can this one potential borrower be? How happy do I need to make this borrower? Are they asking about the fees? Are they asking about the spread? And if they think they can get away with it, they're going to juice the rate and make more on the back end. That's a dirty little industry secret, and I happen to not like it. And so for our company, when we offer you agency financing, we're saying, listen, we're not going to charge you any origination fee because they may well charge you origination fee and juice the rate on the back end, which is not transparent. And so we have 5 core company values, and the first of them is transparency. So if we take a fee on the borrower side and we say, listen, we can do this, it's going to be full service, you're going to work with a capital advisor 1%, you know that we're not ever taking another fee on the back end. If we're offering you a Freddie Mac quote and it's automated and you didn't talk to anyone and you can just, go right to term sheet and go right to underwriting, we only take our fee on the back end, and it's the same every time. And it's based on the size of your loan, truthfully. We do not charge any origination fee because we will never take a fee on both ends and, decide which borrower gets the better deal because we like them.
Hey, Tim, practical question just for the listeners here. What questions should they ask to avoid that back end fee bump?
Yeah. So it's called a yield spread premium. This juicing the rate on the back end. It happens in a few different types of loans. An originator is probably going to get nervous with you going in and asking about a yield spread premium and whether there is one. If you're working with a broker, I would absolutely say I would write it into the contract with a broker. If you're working with a mortgage broker that is not a StackSource capital advisor, and many of your listeners will, they should write into the fee agreement with their broker. The broker may ask for an exclusive arrangement. They may ask, listen, you can't work with anybody else. You have to work with me. Okay, Mr. Broker, you want your 1%? Let's have a clause here that you're not making anything else in the back end. Because if you don't, how do you know they're actually showing you the best loan anyway? Because if they can make another half point from, ABC Freddie Mac lender, are they going to tell you if a bank offers a lower rate? I mean, it's not, they're no longer incentivized to do so. And they kind of have like they should have some integrity, hopefully. This is not so regulated an industry. Like, these guys aren't broker dealers. The SEC does not watch over this space. And it's state by state real estate boards. And you know who they're really focused on? They're worried about grandma and her residential mortgage. They're not really worried about you as a multifamily investor that's making money. As a matter of fact, to regulators and to the average politician, you're kind of scum.
Yep.
Like, it's some scummy guy screwing over some other scummy guy, according to a lot of politicians. Put in your mortgage brokerage contract that they can't charge a yield spread premium. Do it. See what they say.
Boom.
And then email me and tell me what their reaction is, because I'd love to laugh or, cry with you.
Yeah.
So yield spread premium. Let's break the industry. About it.
Let's everybody break the news on a call and then screenshot the moment you say yield spread premium and see what the reaction is.
I would love to make this a hashtag. Who would love to make this a trending hashtag?
We got to come up with a
Who would it take?
short hashtag name.
Who would it take? How many multifamily influencers do we need to get together to make
I only
that
think
happen?
we need to do get 3 of them, like a Neil Bawa. He's pretty active, and a few other, we could get Rod Khleif on board, hashtag no yield spread premium. And those guys don't operate mortgage brokerages for their business.
Yeah.
So I think we could actually make that happen.
Yeah.
Hashtag no yield spread premium. Thanks.
Pick the ones that don't have brokerages, and let's I'd love to work on that with you.
That would be great.
Dude, next thing we know, our show's going to get shut down because somebody's like, no, these guys are bad business.
Yeah.
But no, hey, I appreciate you shedding that light, because that's kind of mind boggling to me that's a thing. And obviously, had you never mentioned that, would have never known. And I think what's really surprising to me is, call me naive, but I thought there was lending laws around lenders not being transparent or things like that. I thought there was more strict restrictions for preventing this type of behavior, but I guess not. Huh?
Business lending. If you're in less than 5 unit multifamily, if you're buying a duplex, now you're in gray area. If you're buying a home, there's the Consumer Protection Act, right? This is business lending, and it is, because it's real estate. It's not watched over by the SEC. It's watched over by real estate boards, and then it becomes a state by state thing. And it's not illegal. It's not. It's just, I just don't feel that's the way I want the industry to go, whether or not we can make more of a buck in the short term.
It comes back to transparency, right? I mean, just like if you're buying a car, you want to know all the terms associated with it, or whatever else. I mean, it's always pretty transparent to the consumer. But we want the people that are in the investing space and as a fiduciary to their investors, they need to know about it, just so they, you don't get the wool pulled over your eyes.
Yeah.
Cody, this is absolutely the snippet for
I was thinking the same thing.
Sure. Yeah.
I was thinking the same hashtag YSP, and then we'll go into detail. I was thinking the same thing.
We'll do everything we can to support it if you think that's worth moving forward.
I think it is.
Don't worry, Tim. We're going to get you on a few other big podcasts out there too. So make sure to spread that one. So, man, good conversation. This has been a lot of fun. And unfortunately, Tim, I hate that we're kind of drawing near the end of our time here, but really appreciate you kind of coming on and introducing us to StackSource. I think this is filling a big gap and void in our industry, in our space right now. And I'm sure there's a lot of eager borrowers that are going to benefit from learning more about your services. Just before we get into wrapping up the show here, is the long-term vision for you guys to be able to start placing direct lender sources through StackSource, or like aside from just being capital advisors, or what's the long-term vision for you guys?
Yeah, that's not the immediate goal for us. I think it's a question that is not fully determined for the long term. If we decide what we can do is better for the borrower, if we were to go seek, a direct agency lending license and stuff, and that's beyond our reach as a startup right now. And we're entrepreneurial, and this has been a couple of guys spinning this up out of a coffee shop at the beginning, and now we're beyond that, and now we're making money. But maybe, especially if there's a use of data where like we can spin up like a lending product that, is a little bit unique or something. But right now we're really fully committed to capital advisory, and doing what's best for our borrower, and not having any financial incentive to push our own financial products.
Nice, man. Nice. Well, like I said, I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad that you guys are pioneering this void in the space, so to speak. And, definitely hope that this translates into solving a problem for borrowers out there. Like you said, finding the right capital markets partners to work with and source their debt, man. That's great. So, well, John, any questions for Tim that we didn't cover?
No YSP, man. Hashtag. Make it trend.
Hashtag YSP. Oh, this is going to be fun, man. I'm telling you, we're going to have targets on our back after this. But all of a sudden, all of our debt quotes that come back. You're getting 8% higher.
Well, the direct lenders, they probably, it would blow up a lot of brokers. If we can get borrowers to talk to lenders without all this friction of like somebody else's incentive in between, that would just be an amazing thing for the industry.
Sure. Yeah, I think ultimately it comes back down to the credibility piece as a borrower, right? When you're having these intelligent conversations and you're able to speak to some of these things, it makes you more credible as a borrower. And I definitely think it, like you said, it puts the pressure back on the lender to be more transparent, and which is ultimately going to be beneficial for both parties, both users. So, it's good to be educated and know that that's a thing to watch out for. So, awesome. But well, Tim, man, great conversation. Really enjoyed this. Learning more about StackSource. And before we go, I got a couple more questions for you, and we'll kind of wrap up from there. But usually what we like to ask people is, what are you doing for your own continued education to further your own investing? But I guess in your case, what are you guys doing to learn more about your industry and further your business?
Sure. Well, listen, you're putting on an educational podcast for a lot of investors to really understand how to make money with real estate and multifamily investments. And that's part of my mix too. I just opened up my podcast app, and I don't know what time period this covers, but it tells me that I've listened to more than 400 hours of podcasts here at this point. Wow. Reading books. We keep up with like industry trade publications too, because we need to know what's going on in the ins and outs of the economics and the interest rates and how that's going to affect commercial mortgage rates. And then we mine some of our own data on like what lenders are quoting on the platform, and like try to learn from that as well. An interesting thing we do is, we study what's the difference between a 10-year treasury rate and the average commercial mortgage quote on our platform and things like this. And so learning and keeping up with the markets is really important. And then I just do some, I listen to audiobooks, sometimes while exercising, sometimes just while, I'm taking care of my babies, and audiobooks on just business topics and ways to think of, industries is important for me too. So a lot of audio, reading up from the industry trades is important for our team.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I know that you mentioned, you're very entrepreneurial. Obviously, you guys are, getting out of the startup phase. What have been some lasting lessons that you've learned through your entrepreneurship journey?
Oh man, so many. Let's talk for another 3 hours, huh? The importance of team is one that is like one to stress right now for me, because now that we are picking up momentum, the same things that like work when you're just working on one deal, or when you try to scale and grow, you have to have the right people and the right butts in the right seats. Is like such an important thing that we're emphasizing right now as we grow, and we're adding software engineers and designers in addition to capital advisors and leaders. So the right butts in the right seats, and know what you're good and bad at is like the beginning of that. Because if you don't know what you're bad at, you don't know who you need to put in a seat.
Yeah, man, great points. And I think that definitely translates across any entrepreneurship or any business, very relevant for us as entrepreneurs in real estate. So I appreciate that. And, what advice would you give to the listeners, especially as, borrowers for commercial debt? What advice would you give us?
Source multiple quotes. Don't settle with just your relationship with the local bank. It is comfortable to do that. It is good to build relationships while also verifying, is this the best thing out there? So that's one. And the other is, don't skip your underwriting and just take what a broker's giving you, right? So like if a sales broker's feeding you something, that sales broker may indeed work for the seller and try to put, an underwriting in the best light. You need to do your own underwriting, or you need to, again, right butts in the right seats. If you're not that underwriter, get an underwriter connected with you, partnered with you on your team that really knows what they're doing and knows how to think through, different decisions and how that's going to affect the income of the property. So I can never stress enough the importance of like intelligent underwriting.
Very good point. Very important skill set that's needed in the business. So I appreciate that. So, all right, Tim, tell the listeners how they can learn more about StackSource and get connected with you.
Sure. Website simple, stacksource.com. Email simple, tim@stacksource.com. I'm active on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, but if you want to ever reach me, tim@stacksource.com is a great way to.
Awesome. Tim, fun conversation, man. Appreciate all the great insights, and thank you so much for tuning in with us today.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks, John. You guys are great.
Thank you. Sorry about this connection